Thank you to all the presenters. We are going to take a couple minutes for questions from the audience. So if the presenter would like to come up and sit at the panel. Any questions from the room? Would you mind coming to a microphone? Yeah.
Hi, Lionel Cares from Department of Justice. I just had a general question for the pilot members. What is the most challenging thing you've had to deal with your customers in terms of them buying into these solutions and really wanting to, make these solutions a go?
Maybe Dave, we can start down the line.
Who wants to go first? I think we all probably have some input on that one. I think one of the biggest challenges that we recognized out of the gate was a majority of the relying parties and customers that we look at don't necessarily know that they want an identity management solution. They either think that what they have works, or they really just don't understand what they have. And then they don't understand how the involvement of technology and the new capabilities and all the things that are coming out of these pilots actually resonate with them. So one of the things that we found most challenging, I think I kind of alluded to it in mine, is that when we first started out, we really had to engage them on multiple levels, not just from the technology side and talking to the information security officers and their technical staff, but we also needed to engage their compliance officers, we needed to engage their legal folks, and we needed to engage their business strategists, those that are actually looking at other opportunities for where identity can actually be factored into their business processes. And so I think the short answer is it's really a lot of facilitating the understanding about how a secure identity and secure authentication can actually be of value to them outside of what they already have today.
Stage one for us was finding the early adopters with the vision and the patience, and actually the value proposition that we could satisfy with federation, because that's not always the case. You don't want to replace what works. It costs money to get there, and you don't want to change it. So it really has to change their cost or enhance their business value, and that's not necessarily the easiest thing to find.
In addition to that, I think, especially for the large RPs who have the resources in-house, it's hard for them to consider outsourcing that because they think they can do it all themselves because they always have, and there's a perceived, perhaps a real loss of control over things, and so that was something that had to be addressed as well.
Well, I can answer briefly in that for Michigan's pilot, our customers will be the clients using the system online, as well as the eligibility staff within DHS, whose lives will hopefully be made easier by some of this being automated. I'll pause for a minute to see if any of our team on the phone wants to elaborate on that, and if not, we'll move on to Pennsylvania.
I just have one point to make, and then I'll let Frank talk about the challenges. One of the things which I have experienced is the name pilot has a negative connotation. When you go and talk to your relying party, and this is a pilot we are implementing, they say, well, this is something which is going to go for a few months, and then you're going to stop it. So that's the challenge which we have faced, convincing them this is really not something which we are going to switch off after deployment. This is something which we want to expand and kind of take it to the next level. But Frank, I believe there are a lot of challenges from the relying party participation in general.
Well, to Piyush's point, our CIO is definitely behind this and engaged in committing and going forward with it. I also agree fully with what Mike was saying. People are used to what they're used to. They don't see the need. They don't see the understanding of the increased security, at least the business side of the house. But there's also a balance that needs to be struck. I was having a conversation with one of our justice area-related people a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that we should apply CJIS level requirements to our citizen directory. And I'm going, that's a little bit overkill for the 99% of the people who don't touch any of the justice systems. So it's a mix of convincing the right people, educating them, but drawing a nice level factor of expectations out of it.
So by design, NSTIC is disruptive. I said that the first day we met with the NPO in our office, and I stick to that thesis. It is changing. It's got by design to change behaviors in the ecosystem, add new value propositions, do a lot of different things, and people just don't like change, particularly certain security guys and legal guys. You can have great business strategists, and you can find them in almost any enterprise, and particularly in large federations. When you're trying to get more than one enterprise to engage in that, it's really interesting. But I think as the market gets to the next stage, we start crossing that chasm, effectively that'll build momentum.
There's one other thing we ran into, and that has to do with branding. And so when the whole idea of federated identity is that, you know, you have a single credential, you can use multiple places, and you're depending and relying on the identity provider to handle that for you. There's a context switching thing in terms of user experience, but there's also, wait a minute, I don't want my customers to realize that, you know, that we're outsourcing this. You know, we want this to be seamless, and we want it to be, you know, our branding completely. And that's something that, you know, also over time will probably be worked out, but the existing standards with the redirects and everything, it's, I think it can be addressed, but there's some work to do in that area.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the room? Mary Ellen, are there any questions online?
I'm just looking, Kim, are you getting any? Let me go check, because I think there are a couple, but
Okay.
we may not have gotten any. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, I want to thank the participants on the panel today, and I especially wanted to thank Dave from Criterion and Kathy from DAN. They are sort of our pioneers, part of our first round of pilot participants, and they'll be our graduating soon from pilot into their production environments, and we encourage them and thank them for all their support that they've given us so far, and good luck moving forward in production. Thank you very much.
Well, also, I'd back at you, because the NPO has been very supportive, very constructive, and, you know, making things very challenging at the same time. And that's a very, you know, in order to make change, you have to have pressure in the ecosystem. So it's been positive for us. And, you know, the one thing that we really appreciate is the patience, because in reality, we're dealing with big organizations that we came out of the gate thinking this was going to be a 6-month exercise, maybe a year at most, and it takes time. So thank you.
And we've had the opportunity to learn from you all and from each other as well.
Thank you all.